Hello friends, I'm in this video I am sharing some critical comments on the story. Critical comments means analyzing, interpreting the story. Um, a question of identity is very crucial to diasporic personalities. Um Diasporic identities emerge as a product of immigration and resettlement. The fact could entail identity as subaltern to the former colonial powers. Colonial powers here, Americans as a colonizers. Subaltern means inferior to them. They are the superior and the subalterns are the inferior. However, the Indian American characters in Unaccustomed do not identify themselves as inferior or subaltern to ethnic Americans. Subaltern means in the colonial era, the such distinction was there. Subaltern and subaltern as Indians, and for example, and the Britishers are they are superiors, they are colonizers. But such a distinction doesn't exist now. Indian American characters in Unaccustomed do not identify themselves as inferior or subaltern to ethnic Americans. These characters came from a position of privilege in India and resettled in America in order to secure even more privileged futures for their children. Thus, old post colonial terms such as Oriental and other at first glance do not seem particularly useful in describing the Indian Americans in Unaccustomed Earth. So these are Indian Americans, means not uh, purely Indian or not purely American, but something in between that. So what are the features of such personality that we are going to discuss? Diaries fiction is frequently labeled as post-colonial, and it is interesting to discuss her fiction in terms of identity and diasporic identity. So let's concentrate on the diasporic identity. Post-colonial do not focus more on the post-colonial. Diaspora and diasporic identity are best described as a sense of communion felt by people who immigrate from India and who build their lives elsewhere while still identifying themselves as Indian. Communion means a sense of oneness, togetherness with the fellow Indians in America. As a sense of communion felt by people who emigrate from India and who build their lives elsewhere while still identifying themselves as Indian. The sense of communion with other members of the diaspora and the transnational networks that exist between diasporic subjects also play a part in the formation of diasporic identity. What seems to lie at the core of diasporic identity is a sense of nostalgia for the homeland while simultaneously embracing the life in the new homeland. Sense of nostalgia means the memories of the past, memories of the India, their town, their their parents, their relatives over there, their memories, they are part of their life. Like in here in Ruma's case, she has a lot of memories of her mother. Her father has a memories of the Calcutta, etc., and while simultaneously embracing life in the new homeland. New homeland is USA. This means that the clothes that Indian Americans choose to wear, what kinds of food they eat, and how in what language they talk are all significant everyday practices that allow them to negotiate Indian American or Indian American identities. The second generation often comments on the attire of their parents and how their parent choice of clothes marks them as ethnic Indians or assimilating Indian Americans. Second generation Ruma here comments on the attire of her parents. She comments on mother, on attire of her mother. She has still retained her identity as a mother. She is not. She has not been assimilated in the American culture like her father. Ruma juxtaposes the attire of her parents, noting how her mother's colorful saris and striking jewelry would have made her stand out in a suburban Seattle. Means it her colorful saris, her dime size bindi, striking jewelry. It makes her stand out in suburban Seattle, while her father's typical American attire and baseball cap made him blend in as an American. Maintaining family like ties to fellow Anglo Indians and cooking a particular cuisine were identified as central to the production and negotiation of Anglo Indian, here in a case Indian American identity. It is emerged as a marker of the closeness and traditions of the family. Enjoying Indian food together might even enable a sense of familiarity. Ruma's mother used to wait for her husband to eat meal first. She has kept that tradition alive of serving husband first and then have her own food. After death of Ruma's mother, some of their friends used to drop some kind of dish to Ruma's father's home. Uh, Eating Indian food is also a marker of their identity. Family means eating in a group, having a party, etc. Sense of familiarity. Most of the Indian characters embark upon ambitious studies. Another feature of the Indian American identity is their career, their dedication to the work they are doing. Ambitious studies, often leading to multiple degrees and professional careers. Lahiri's own scholarly career boasts a total of 3 master's degrees and a PhD. Lahiri has a very good career. They are ambitious. The Indian Americans are ambitious. They work hard. They have a certain work ethics. This is the reason that there are many leading corporates have Indians as CEOs, Indian Americans as CEOs. Ruman's father represents the work ethics that is associated with Indian American identity. He is so absorbed in his work that he neglects his wife and daughter. Thus, he is both a typical career driven Indian American and at the same time his exception to the Bengali father figure of a close knit family. His work seems more important to him than his family, and he does not connect with his wife or his daughter. Okay, so father has a mixed trait. Uh, Indians, Americans means dedication to the work and um, not involving much with the family, which is America. Hmm? Giving second importance to the family. That is the American trait. He confesses that he turned his back on his parents by settling in America in the name of ambition and accomplishment, none of which mattered anymore now. He looks back upon his young manhood and considers the values of ambition and accomplishment to be irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Now that he is retired and this aspect of life feels meaningless to him, while he has done a PhD in biochemistry and a strong work ethic, this aspect of life doesn't matter anymore. This is very important and it speaks a volume. At the age of 70 or 70 or 65, 70, he looks back his life and looks back his career and the way he has struggled in this unaccustomed, or the way he has built his career. And now, at the age of 65, he feels that it feels meaningless to him. That aspect of life feels meaningless to him. Desperate Housewives is also another feature of that Indian American identity. These wives form a significant group of immigrants who, in contrast with their husbands, do not have any working career outside of the home, either as students or as working professionals. They are expected to cook, clean, and otherwise care for their husbands and children, and their only success lies in the careers of their husbands and the extent to which their children excel. Many of these female first generation immigrants seem to turn into desperate housewives and detest suburban American life. Being suburban stay-at-home mother seems to equal an unhappy and isolated existence. Ruma's mother was equally miserable with life in the suburbs, and her husband seems to feel guilty for not having provided her with a happier life. She raised two children in America and spoke to them exclusively in Bengali, and made elaborate Indian meals and owned more than 200 saris. These aspects of her life in America show how she was able to cling to the Indian ways of life. So she is not getting assimilated in the American culture. She is opposite of Mrs. Bakchi. Mrs. Bagchi's example seems to indicate that if a Bengali first generation woman joins the workforce, she will naturally integrate into society and abandon many of the traditional Indian customs such as dressing in saris. Mrs. Bagchi is an independent woman who has made a life of herself without the aid of a man, and here too she emerges as an exact opposite of Ruma's mother, who, if she were widowed, would have moved in with her daughter instead of living by herself. Ruma's father recognizes that Ruma is echoing her mother in making herself only overly dependent on her husband, and that she is leading life as an isolated stay-at-home mother. Ruma's father is afraid that Ruma is following her mother's footsteps. This makes Ruma's father concerned that his daughter will become an as unhappy as his wife was, and he wishes for a different life for her. Ruma has been a hardworking, successful lawyer, earning six-figure sums. After the birth of Akash, she came back to work in as part-time position, but after the sudden death of her mother, she resigned and had since been a stay-at-home mother. She now uses the bookcase that he used to hold her law books to store Akash thing, a choice which clearly shows how she has swapped a working career for being a full-time mother. Although she has made a conscious decision about not working anymore, a decision which means that her husband has to work all the more in order to finance the lifestyle to which they have become accustomed. She doesn't seem to be particularly proud of it. Ruma is not happy. She is not proud of it that she is not working anymore. She has not told her father about her decision, and when asked about her plans for finding work in Seattle, she admits to herself that she has not bothered to contact any firms in Seattle. This shows that she at some level feels guilty or shameful about staying away from work. Maybe because she feels her talent is going west, but also because she is repeating the life that her mother led, a life that did not make her happy. He is surprised to see his daughter staying away from professional life as she has worked for as long as he can remember. And he warns her that he should go back to work so that all her hard work will not go waste.